All right, everybody, welcome to Modern Financial Wellness. I'm your host, Jim Grace, and this is the podcast created to help you have a healthier relationship with your finances. And I'm so excited to talk to my guest today, Sun Yong Kim-Manzolini. She is an entrepreneur, an author, self-made millionaire, and she brings with her such an inspiring story. I'm so excited to have you here. Sun Yong, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim. It's my pleasure to be on your podcast. What a awesome topic of podcast that you have. It's just I'm excited to be in it. So thank you.
I'm very excited to have you here. We've gotten to know each other a little bit. You have such an interesting journey, such an interesting story to tell. I'm happy to help you tell it and share it with everyone. Um, so I definitely want to get into all the amazing things you do today as a CEO, an entrepreneur, multiple businesses, multiple books, options trader. It's very eclectic, things that you have, you're involved in and very successful in all of them today. But you started out not being able to walk in a Korean orphanage. So you've come a long way from your early childhood. Would you mind telling us what that was like early on for you and some of maybe what are more informative memories that you have growing up in Korea?
Sure. I was born in South Korea, not North Korea, so don't get that confused there. Okay.
It's probably good to
Anyway,
clarify, right?
I
People are
know.
probably
Yes,
wondering. Yeah.
right. But early as a young girl, I would say I was about 3 or 4 years old. My mother went into a room to give a birth. I remember that, and just waiting by the door for her to come out. And it just all day long, she never came out. And I realized that she passed away. And I just heard a
Mm.
baby crying. So can you imagine, just as a little girl? And then right after that, my dad decided that he no longer wants to take care of me and my sister. And so he told my older sister, she would have been probably like 10 years older than I was. So probably like 14 or so. And we find ourselves in an orphanage in Mokpo, Korea. And I think my sister worked there as a helping staff. And as I was living in that orphanage, I didn't see too much of my sister, but I did hear a lot of babies crying. The
Mm.
reason I'm going into this experience as an orphan is that I realized something. As every week or every day, staff would say, like, oh, we found another baby by the front door. And they would just bring them in and they were just crying. That's how they knew that baby was crying by the door. So family members were living there. So then I thought, oh, my family must be normal then, you know, that we got
Mm.
separated because that's what families do. So I realized that and I said, oh, it's not so bad, right?
So that was just
And
your experience. So
yeah,
that's what happens to babies is they come here, right? Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I thought, okay, so that's something that I didn't expect to realize, but I thought, my family is normal. So I wasn't mad at my dad too much because thinking it was normal thing. And then next thing that I remember was just one day out of the blue, I was just looking out the window and I noticed some of the kids were playing outside. And I looked around and I thought, why can't I go out there? It's like I should be out there playing with my friends, but I couldn't.
Mm.
And I thought, that's when I realized, like, okay, I can't get up. I can't get on the wheelchair. I can't, I'm so used to just getting around, just scooting my butt, like this, with my hands and my knees and just scooting it this way. That's how I knew. That's the only
Mm.
way I got around place to place. So I realized that. And then next memories that I have is like, my sister and I, we did go to like few places outside and cut some, like a crab and have some very intimate, like private times together as a sisters. And
Mhm.
then one day out of the blue, she just showed me a picture of another orphanage and say, Sanyang, this is where I'm going to take you. And I said, why? I said, I don't want to go. And then she says, I have to take you there. And she says, this is where they're going to teach you how to walk. And silly me, all I wanted to do is just stay with her. And I said, you don't understand. I don't want to learn to walk. That's not important to me. I
Mm.
just said, I don't want to what? I just wanna be with you.
Yeah, you've kinda figured out, "This is my family, this is my space, you're my
That's
sister,
right.
let's just stay here." Yeah.
He is my only hope because my
Mm,
mother died, my dad abandoned us, and so it's just, my sister and I. And so I didn't care about anything else in the world, but I just wanted to be with her. And, she just tucked me into it. We ended up going to that second orphanage, and as soon as we walked in there and one of the staff members greeted us, and they showed me, like, around the place. Like, this is the room, this is where, everybody gets together and all that, and I was just so shocked because I have never seen in my life that so many people in a one building that could not walk normal. Like, they were all walking with the crutches, lips, wheelchairs. And then there was me, I couldn't even do any of those, just kinda, couldn't even stand up.
mhm,
So I was really, really surprised. And I think she was just talking to the staff, hoping that she could stay there just like she did with that orphanage. But I think that's only for the people that are handicapped people.
mhm.
So So she lied to me basically saying, as days went on, I was just hanging onto her hands really tight because she's the only person that I had in my world, that's it. That's just my comfort. And she just says, you know what, let me just go to the bathroom and I'll be right back. And I said, okay, I'll go with you then. See, because I didn't really trust her, I just
Sure.
thought she's going to leave me. I just had this instinct that she's going to leave me, even though I was only like, 4 or 5 years old, right? But she keeps saying, "I promise I'll be back." She even pinky promised me. She says, "I'll be right back after I go to the bathroom." I said, "If you just go into the bathroom, why can't I just go?
Mm,
I'll just follow you." Anyway, hours into talking back and forth, she left. Of course, end of the day, I waited, waited, waited. It seems like, it's been like 6 months later. But end of the day, she never came back. And at that moment, I have lost I feel like I lost everything in my entire life.
you're all by yourself at that point.
I was all by myself. I felt very lost. I really hated everybody. Just I hated people, period.
Yeah.
I hated the world at the moment. And I never spoke. I never smiled in that orphanage for the longest time. Couple of reasons. Those were the main reasons. But one other reasons that I did not smile or talk is because I was also born with the hair lip.
Mm,
And so nobody told me that anything's wrong with me until kids were bullying me at the orphanage. They were calling me names and I didn't understand. I don't know why they would bully me. So one day, um, of course, this was after I learned to walk. So it took me like 2 years to walk in there because in that orphanage, we didn't have any physical therapists or anybody special. They just told me to hang onto the rail on the hallway, long hallways, and just stand up and start walking once you get comfortable. Standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, doing that for day and day out, week, month after. It took me 2 years to learn to walk. But so this was after I learned to walk that, when kids were calling me names and got bullied, and I went outside, and I remember looking at one of the edge part of the orphanage, and I wanted to make sure nobody was watching me because I was so, so embarrassed because there was nobody telling me what's wrong with me
mm.
other than obviously I could not walk. And so I found this metal piece of the edge of the building, and I just went like very embarrassed. I was like this, and I was looking at my face. It's what's wrong with me? Why was people calling me names? And sure enough, I had a huge hair lip on my lip, top lip. And and so I thought I was scared because I thought if I smiled and I talk, I thought it would split more.
Mm,
So first reason was that I didn't trust anybody. I hated everybody in the world. And then second reason was like more so like, okay, for sure I'm not gonna talk to anybody because I don't want this to split open wider.
mm,
So I lived that kind of life. until I was about 14 years old. And there's a family in America wanted to adopt a special needs a child. And I was under that category. I was 14 years old. It was the cutoff age. And then I had a hair lip and I could not walk. But I did learn to walk though when I was about, 6 or 7 years old in an orphanage. But my legs were still very crooked.
Mhm.
It was like very bold leg. But anyway, so I was adopted and it was my inside of me, deep inside of me that I wanted to have a family again, you know.
Mm.
And there's been a times where a couple of the Korean families came to the orphanage where I was at, and they would look me over, wanted to adopt me. But I think they knew that it was too much for them to handle me because there's so many things that are wrong with me. And
Mhm.
I remember as they were looking over, because I had to go to a special office, like a staff office, and then they would just look me over and I would just sit down and I would just, play whatever while they were checking me out. And I remember saying this to myself, and I thought, please take me home. I want to taste good food. I want to wear pretty clothes. Please take me home. And I was just saying that inside of me, just like wishing. And then that happened in Korea. And so when American family wanted to adopt me, I was shocked. I thought, who would want me like
Or
my
I w
age? Who
I
would
was gonna
want me with my disability?
Yeah, and it had been a pretty long period of time, it sounds like, for you to have lost your family and dealt with the disabilities and the challenges. I'm wondering if did you feel like maybe it wasn't gonna happen? Like, it was just, there
Yeah,
wasn't gonna
of
be a
course.
family. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, well, especially when we had a Peace Corps worker that worked in the orphanage for a couple of years. And when we got really close. And then when she left, when her Peace Corps work was finished, after 2 years, and she promised us that she would find a family for us. Because that orphanage was like 100% of the handicap, but there was 80% of the kids had a family, and there's 20% of us didn't have a family. And so it was very, very difficult for us to live with somebody that the kids that had a family, they had a new clothes to wear, they had a candies and gums to chew and everything and money and everything. But there's 20% of us, we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't have any money. I remember, let me tell you quickly about the experience that it was a really awesome experience that I had, for example, in orphanage. I was about 10 or 11 years old. One day, my friend, I wanted to chew a gum, and I was watching other kids chewing a gum that have a family, and I was so embarrassed to ask them, like, to have a piece of gum or even give me some money so I could buy gum or whatever. I was so embarrassed and shamed, like, who would want to help the orphan girl? And so I thought, I'm gonna chew a gum today. So I asked one of my girlfriend, and we went outside at the orphanage. And, of course, I was walking by then, right? Because I was like 6 or 7, I learned to walk. And we went outside and we went to the street nearby the orphanage, just outside the orphanage building. And we found some gum on the floor. And this is very cool. This is like the coolest thing that I have ever done, I think, in orphanage. Um, that was, I was able to pick up the gum that has been walked on by so many dirty shoes and who knows how many years. But I wanted to chew a gum because I thought it would be so cool to chew a gum. And so I picked up the gum and my girlfriend and I remember digging it out and like brushing off, taking off the biggest rocks that I could feel and like brushing it off and everything. I didn't even go inside to wash it in the water. I just kind of brushed it off, picked it off and everything. And I chewed it and it was kind of a little bit crunchy because, there was a still little teeny, teeny rocks that I could not pick, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, this is so cool. So my girlfriend and I, we were like, we're good. We're so cool. We're the coolest kid in that orphanage because we just chewed a gum, right?
Yeah, 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 and it's
We thought it
free
was so cool.
nonetheless,
Yeah,
right? Didn't even need any money for it. Yeah.
right. And I accomplished my goal because I thought, I want to chew gum. I'm going to find a ways. I didn't come up with excuses, just but I just didn't, I guess, too embarrassed asking people. So I just found my own way to do it. So I thought it was so cool. And
Mm.
I still gives me that cool feeling like, wow, it's like I did it.
Yeah, regardless of the circumstances, you found a way to use your words to accomplish that goal. Like we
That's
are
right.
chewing gum today. It doesn't matter where it's coming from.
That's
We're
right.
chewing gum
That's
today.
right. So
Yeah.
going forward, being adopted, and then I had all kinds of, doubts and just like, oh, I can't believe someone wants me, And then I thought, if they want me, then I have to learn to trust them. It's like, I don't want to do that. I just don't want to trust anybody,
Mm.
you know. And and then I have to learn to be a part of the family, like being in a part of the family. Like I don't know how to do that, you know.
Yeah. And
And
where did you
so
land in the States? You're 14 years old, you're adopted by a family, and whereabouts did you
Utah,
in Utah? Okay,
Utah,
great.
yes, that's where I'm still at. Yes.
Awesome.
So lo and behold, my adoptive family had a six of their own kids,
Mhm.
and they ended up adopting five more kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they were just sweet, sweet families. I mean, parents were very, very generous. But so when I was adopted, I didn't know any English at all. I didn't even know my alphabets or nothing. So it was a huge challenge. And I just had a teeny dictionary that my adopted mom knew that I had to have so we could communicate. And I did everything what they told me to do because I thought someone is giving me an opportunity to have a better future. I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm going to make sure that they don't regret for adopting me. I want them to be happy. And so I did everything what they asked me to do. I got a really good grades and I'm like I would get up at 4 in the morning and because there were so many kids, in the family, I was like a eighth child because they had a six of their own. They adopted a little Korean girl at age 4, and she didn't know how to speak English. And she was such a good, they decided to give another try on Korean girl, but then it was, special needs child because nobody wanted to adopt
Mm.
14 years old and with the handicap. Most
Mhm.
people adopt babies.
Right.
And so I was their eighth child. So we were all in a bunk beds because there were so many kids. So I remember I decided to just get up early in the morning before everybody else got up and just study my English, like my ABCs and everything. And I remember having a little teeny flashlight under the bottom bunk bed, just so that I don't disturb my sisters up bed. So I would just study it, and then I would go to every single summer school just so that I could catch up because it was
Mm.
just very, very difficult for me. And
Did you get
ended up
any special assistance or training? So you had mentioned in the orphanage that was for children who were handicapped or disabled. There wasn't a lot of specialty treatment. You were kind of, there. They guided you, it sounds like, but you're kind of figuring it out on your own how to walk.
yeah.
So were you given extra tutelage or therapies or anything when you got to the States?
I think
Yeah.
later on, yeah, I definitely got some counseling,
Hmm.
to figure out who I was. But when I first came, I couldn't get any counseling at all because I didn't know the English. I couldn't
Okay.
understand. So I didn't really get any counseling until I was like in my 30s.
Wow. Wow. So step 1, learn the language, I guess, and you mentioned how you looked at it as an opportunity. Did you have
Yes.
that impression that it was a big opportunity right away, or is that something you kinda had to warm up to? Were you still a little reserved and untrusting when you came to the States and joined your family, or did you kinda sense that this is an opportunity I need to take advantage of right away?
No, I just thought I had to prove myself. Otherwise, they could send me back.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I have to prove to myself and to them so that
Mm,
they'll want to keep me,
mm, got
even though
you.
they didn't tell me that. Even though they
Right.
didn't, that was not their intention. But that's
Mhm.
how I was feeling because I was so frustrated that I could not speak. And I thought anybody that would smile at me, and I thought they were making a fun of me because I still have that issues with my hair lip and everything. So when I came and at age 14, I ended up, they did provide a schooling there, like a just regular schooling, and finished the junior high there in Orphanage. And then I came that when I was adopted, I started junior high all over again because I can imagine going to high school not knowing any alphabets. And so I was kind of held back and started with junior high, and that was even difficult for me. But my mother, she stayed home, so she had all these kids, so she used to spend the whole summer with me, teaching me English, so I could at least say hi, how are you? I'm hungry.
Mhm.
What's your
Mhm.
name? Just basic things. But yeah, I was just like whole time, and I was really, really like I was missing my culture because I didn't have anybody, but I had my friends that I grew up with. So I just kind of like really missed my country, my food, and I just cried many, many days and just just at age 14, my life was just upside down. Same
Yeah.
time, because I had to learn so much,
Yeah.
but I had no
Well,
choice.
yeah, and I mean, 14 teenage years are a challenging time for any teenager, right? But you had been through so much in your life already, and I think you describe it really well, where it's just your life is once again flipped upside down. You're in a brand new country with a brand new, family, and starting from scratch, learning a language. Um, it's just so interesting to me that throughout all of that you took it upon yourself to kinda meet the challenge and put in the work and figure it out,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah. So forward, just kind of going forward really quick. So then my family, said, make sure that you get a good grades and get a good paying job. So I did that. I became a certified medical assistant and I landed in my dream job. Like I loved it. I didn't want to be an RN. I didn't want to be an LPN. I didn't want to work at the hospital, but I wanted to work with patients and I
Mhm.
wanted to work with the doctors.
Can I
And
ask
so that
you a
was,
quick question about
yes,
that? So, because I think it might be important to explore a little bit. So your parents instilled in you when you got to the States that you can work hard and study and get a good job that pays the bills. That's kind of
yes,
a money message or mindset
yes,
that you're receiving
yes,
from them when you get to the States? Interesting.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. And
yeah.
so I don't know anything. So I just did exactly what, they told me. And that's normal mindset like all of us live with, right?
Mhm.
And we don't know anything other than that,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because they were my parents and they were my guidance, they were my, providers, right? And so yeah, so before when I was in orphanage, I had no purpose getting up in the morning, but I got up because I was forced to get up because if you live there, you can't just lay around. So I got up and just looking for meal to meal. It was like I
Mhm.
ate breakfast and what's my next meal? I had no agenda, no purpose, nothing to I mean, nothing to be grateful for, nothing like that at all.
Mhm.
Because in that orphanage was really bad. Like we got beat up. If someone did something wrong, we all got punished. And if we didn't do our homework or if we were late, we got punished a lot. So it was, I mean, with the tree limb, I mean, with the rulers, just we got beat up really bad. And so
Oh.
it was really scary place, but at least I had a place to sleep.
So when you get to the United States and you're learning from your parents about hard work and education and getting a job and having opportunity, was that interesting or attractive to you? What do you remember how you felt about this idea that you could maybe have some purpose and some
Yeah.
income?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, I was just so grateful. I was just
Mm.
so grateful and so happy because, where life was just getting up and looking forward to next meal and still
Mhm.
being hungry
Right.
and, having to kind of dig through the garbage to get some more food to fulfill your, hunger. And to where, opportunity was given to me with the, being adopted, learning all this challenge things, lifestyle, language, and just everything. And then, so yeah, when I was given that, I was just so grateful. And I
Mhm.
remember when I first came, I had nothing. I didn't bring anything other than just a few pictures of my friends from orphanage. That's all I had. And then the clothes that I wore, it was money that sent to my orphanage from my adopted parents so so that I could wear something decent.
Mm.
And so when I first came, I was just so shocked because they gave me all this clothes because I had nothing. So they bought me clothes, shoes, and underwear, and just like, and I thought it was like I was just shocked. Not only they adopted me, that they gave me all these things for me to even wear. And I
Mm.
have like, I have a dress to wear, I have a pants to wear, and I have a more than one outfit to change into, more than one pair of underwear to change into. I was like, and then I get to take a bath and shower every day. Like this is just like insane. I just couldn't
Wow.
understand. It was just
Yeah.
like overwhelming. And I thought, and then the presents that they knew that I had to have a basic needs, right? Clothes and shoes and things. And I thought, this is gonna last me lifetime. This is all I need. I don't need anything else anymore.
This is more than enough, right? I've
It's
won,
more than
right? I've
enough.
got
Exactly,
yeah,
more than
yeah,
enough, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So as I was leading my life there, and then for like Christmas experience, right? Because in the orphanage, we never got to celebrate my birthdays or Christmas, those were just regular days for us, Nobody
Mhm.
recognized your birthdays or anything. So um, but I do remember one year for Christmas, we did get an apple by our head, just by apple by our bed. And I was just like, "Oh, apple for Christmas. This is great." And I could still remember taking a bite of that apple. It's like crisp and it was so delicious. And just that one time, the one apple for Christmas, it was just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So experiencing Christmas in America was so different because everybody, they have 6 siblings, right? 6 kids, and then the one daughter, so there's 7 and 8 of us with me. And they were asking, my parents would ask us, like, what do you want for Christmas? And then, like, I would ask for one thing. And then my sisters and brothers would say, you could ask more than one thing. I said, no, I just, yeah, I just, I just want one. I didn't want to ask for anything because I don't need anything. I got more than enough, so I didn't want anything. But they says, you could ask for what you want, what you need. And I said, I just want a Korean Bible. That's all I asked for
Wow.
because, I did like I said, I don't need anything.
Yeah,
I
it's
have
interesting.
everything.
It's an interesting part of your story, and it makes me think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Have you ever looked at that? Where we all need safety and security, and we need our basic needs met, or we can't think about anything else.
That's right.
But I think sometimes in our country, in our society today, most of our needs are met. We have a lot of stuff. It's
Yeah.
when those things are taken care of and we're
We
thinking about, all
do.
right, well, what else is there? It's like kind of tough to think about wanting more or doing anything else because it's, here you are with everything that you could probably possibly imagine happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was so shocked. I remember,
Mm.
like, crying with the happiness and gratitude, and I just thought, it was just really, really humbling experience. Like, not only they want me the way I am, and they fixed me all up. They gave me, like a leg surgery and my lip surgery, just everything. And I just was like, oh,
Wow.
and so even today, every single day when I take a bath, there's not one day I don't go by and I feel so grateful for me to be able to comb my hair and for me to buy gum. And that's another thing, like buying a gum first time in America. Oh, you want to hear this? And I was shocked. It was a shocking moment when I first bought my own gum and I bought it and then I chewed it and it was just so shocking because I never knew that gum had a flavor.
You had always the piece that was tossed out, right? After the flavor was gone up until that point?
The gum had a flavor. It was so there was no crunchiness. It was smooth and it was so
Mm.
delicious.
Wow. Wow.
It was so
Uh,
delicious. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's what makes me feel so rich today because I have more than enough.
mm,
I could buy. I mean, financially, that I made millionaire with option trading,
mhm,
but to have this other part of me where I have everything I need, I have more than enough, and being able to take a
mm,
bath and shower, just to like buying like many gummies I want, many packages I want, anytime. As soon as I
yeah,
get done with this, I could buy gum. That makes me feel rich. That
yeah,
makes me feel like a millionaire.
mm,
I mean, my life is just so changed. But then it's a realization. Nobody
Mm,
didn't come to me and say, "Did you know?" Right? But because I journeyed a hard journey, because my mindset is just so different now than
yeah,
back then. Because I was living with the no purpose, and then I was living with the somebody else's mind, their ordinary money mind that they're telling me what to do, how to live, what to do, and basic like we all live nowadays. Until I
right.
realized, I thought, you know what? I love this job that I was working in my dream job as certified medical assistant for 33 years, but it's broken. It's a broken system because everybody's working 9 to 5 job and yet they're living paycheck to paycheck and
Yeah,
they're
so,
struggling.
I got us sidetracked a little bit. So your parents had taught you to work hard, get a job, right? And I think that's a message that a lot of us get from our parents, and I certainly heard that from my folks as well, where get a good education, get yourself a good job, be able to pay your
Yes.
bills, buy a house, take a vacation once in a while. That was like the American dream that was instilled with me.
Right.
And to a certain extent, it's great advice. And you described this job as a dream job that you had for 33 years.
Yes.
So, not to fast forward past that part of your life, but are adopted by your US adoptive family, you get an education, you get your dream job, and you work for 33 years. And then one day you wake up and say, well, I'm going to retire and I'm broke. Is that kind of where you landed?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was at my dream job and I thought something's wrong with the system. I thought I did everything what everybody tells me to do, you know, and why am I struggling? Like,
Hmm.
why am I having to work extra job?
Mm,
So like I was married, and even as a married, we had a two income. We're still struggling. My husband and I, we both were, making money. We're still struggling, living, paycheck to paycheck. And then I ended up divorcing him after 14 years and then found myself as a single mother and
mm,
raising kids. And then doing, again, continue to work my dream job. And I ended up supplementing my income. I would work after like work my 10-hour day shift. And then I would sell vacuums at night. And then my only day off, Wednesday, I would do catering business. And then on the
mm.
weekends, I would clean the houses.
And that
Why
sounds
do I have to work 6, 7 days a week to make ends meet,
mm,
including working at my 40-hour, my dream job?
mm. I
I
was
thought
just
this
gonna
is broken
say,
system.
yeah, so as I'm hearing you describe, you're working at your dream job, but you have multiple other side hustles or gigs or part-time work just to make ends meet. It sounds like it's from your experience, did you feel like if I just keep working harder, if I work more hours, then it'll solve my problems, but it didn't get you there, right? So more hard work, which is again, it's good advice to a certain extent, but it's not gonna get you where you wanna be.
No,
Is that
no.
am I hearing that correctly?
Correct. You're absolutely right, Jim. I thought if I work extra hours, and I even worked overtimes too, like whenever my doctor would go on a vacation, I would pick up extra hours too for other working for other doctors and things. Not because I was not money hungry, but I needed to meet the basic needs of my kids as a single mother too, you
Mhm,
know? And so I thought, I'm tired of this living this same old routine, broken system,
mm.
and just trying to please everybody else.
And what was broken about the system when you look back and think about it? What
Well,
was why wasn't it enough? What was w
okay. Um, I was just barely making my, house payment. It wasn't a big house. It was just a basic house, like, two, three bedroom for three girls and me. And then I could never go on a vacation and we could not go out to eat. Um, we would just, my, we didn't have any extra money to do anything, period.
And I
And
can't imagine based on your background, you're not living extravagantly during those years, I'd imagine, right? I mean, based on where you came from and feeling like that first Christmas, you already had enough. You're not like filling your house with useless junk that
no,
no one
no,
needs, right? We're talking about paying your mortgage,
basic.
you're
Yeah.
putting food on the table, making sure the
Yeah.
kids get an education, the basic stuff.
basic stuff. I mean, I was so embarrassed at times where, I would get a notice by my front door and saying your utility is gonna get shut off within 24 hours if you don't pay. And there's
Mm,
times where I would make a payment not knowing that I didn't have any money, and then my check would bounce because I only had a $10 and that bill was like $20. I knew that it's gonna bounce, but at least I paid it, you know?
mhm,
And
mhm,
I want them to see that I made an effort, but then
right,
bank would turn around and charge me, the bounce fee of $10, $20, and I would go more in the hole. I mean, it was just like nonsense.
yeah,
And I thought, this is totally broken system. It is
mhm,
broken system. And so
yeah,
I thought I had to do something.
yeah,
And so I remember just having a conversation with my doctor, which, I was working for. I had to let him know that I was going to retire, instead of not saying anything, until like 10, 20 years goes by. I thought I was having a conversation. I said, I'm going to retire. And he says, when? I said, oh, within a year. And he was like surprised and was like, really? Can you afford it? And I said, no. And he says, do you have any money saved up? I said, no. Everything was no. I wasn't
yeah,
I didn't have any money. I you know, I didn't have any other skills that I was, at
yeah,
standby or anything like that. I just wanted to retire. The reason I wanted to retire, realizing that it was broken system, I was sick and tired of living just same old life, even though it was my dream job. I was so excited to go to bed the night before just to get up early in the morning, just to
mhm,
go to work. I was just so excited. One of those 5 to 10% in the world that loved what I was doing. That's
mm,
how, and I didn't even drink coffee or anything. I was just so excited. I was energetic because think about it where I came from. And I was like, it's my opportunity to make other people happy. Because for
right,
20 years, like nobody made me happy. So at least
mm,
I could contribute trying to make other people happy no matter whatever I was doing. And so I was just like, it was my dream job. But I thought I have to make my dream income. I can't. But if I continue to work there, I know that I was gonna go out, retire, still broke.
mm, 'cause you just
And
couldn't get ahead, and there weren't enough hours in the week for you to work more, right? You're already filling it up. There's just no other option. So you made the decision, like, if I'm gonna make change, I gotta do something different, and that's
yeah,
gonna start with retiring.
yeah.
And did you have a plan at that point, or was it
Not
just the
really.
first no, it was just, "I'm not gonna do this anymore. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do, but I'm not gonna be doing this. I'm not gonna
Yeah. So
stay on
there's
the
a couple.
treadmill."
Yeah, there's a couple of goals. For one thing, realizing I'm gonna stay broke even after I retire, and I'm gonna have to work for somebody else again after I retire. Okay. So that made me wanted to retire early. And then I thought, well, I grew up without a family, most of, early part of my life, and me working so many hours, so many, a week that I didn't have time to spend my time with my kids. And I'm a mom and I
Mhm,
should spend my time with my kids. And so I thought if I retire, I want to stay home, but I have to do something to continue to, supplement my income, make income and stay home and do that. So basically, I just thought, of course, my kids were older by then, and they're just kind of moved out a little bit, but I still have like, and then meanwhile, I got remarried and then I have a 21-year-old son too. And so just turned 21. And then meanwhile, I did get remarried, but I thought, with my last child, I didn't get a chance to really stay home with my 3 girls, but even with my last child, I wanna stay home and
mhm,
just really make a difference. And so, I took my husband and I, we decided to become like a real estate investors. And I thought real estate, you could just show houses. We had some real estate properties, and I had like a rental home. And all of a sudden, so this is the thing. The reason the time that I wanted to retire, having a conversation within a year, I retired. And then I somehow, like when I retired, my mind was just like overwhelming because I thought there's a people out there, Jim, that is making money.
mhm,
There's a people out there making money that they're not working for a company. Why can't I do that? Why can't I? I'm gonna find a way.
and most people, I think, would think you're crazy for walking away from a dream job
They did.
and with no plan,
They
right?
did. Yeah.
But do you feel like your background and your journey and everything that you had to deal with and all the challenges that you faced were helpful in saying, I can go out and figure out how to do this as well. That there's no challenge that I can't overcome.
It was scary, and, until I retired and when I first made my first $1,000,000 within a couple years of retiring with an option trading,
Mhm,
that really gave me a huge boost because I thought when I'm setting a goal and accomplishing goal, having the goal become a reality
mhm,
is the realization that I have a power. I could
mm,
do or become anything or anybody that I want to become. Because
wow,
remember, it started with in orphanage life where they showed me how to walk, and it was my decision, my discipline to practice standing up, taking a step with the rails.
mhm,
It was my decision that I wanted to chew a gum.
mhm,
And it was my decision that I wanted to buy a convertible car, even though I was a broke and living paycheck to paycheck as a single mother. And I wanted to buy a convertible because I love motorcycle, but I can't drive motorcycle because I'm kind of a little petite Asian girl. And, I wasn't even, I just love the motorcycles. And my boyfriends that I had when after, high school, they also like take me on I was like somebody else's backpack on a motorcycle. And I love the wind blowing through my hair. And I thought the next thing that close to motorcycle is a convertible. And
mhm,
so just kind of going back to where we were talking about is this where it's a very important piece of where it took me there is that when I didn't have any money, when I was broke, struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, and I wanted to buy a convertible, and I started test driving when I didn't even have money to buy a convertible car or any car because I
mm,
used to drive like broken old cars. I would get stopped so many times on the freeway. And I know a lot of dates, guys on the freeway because my car would like smoke and broken. I said, "What's wrong with my car now?" Anyway,
mhm,
that's not a
yeah,
problem. But basically, I wanted to buy convertible, and for me to wanting to buy convertible, and I thought I'm gonna have to work 10 or 20 years for me to have enough money to save money to buy a convertible. And I
mhm,
wasn't talking about brand new. It was just like, even used convertible, right? But it's just a
right,
convertible. So we test drove it. My girls and I, we used to do activities on the weekends. We would go test drive at the car lots. And I wanted to make sure, I wanted to sit at the convertible car, make sure I felt comfortable once I make the money. I didn't want to wait till 10 years or so, how many years it took me to save money to buy my dream car and then get there and then I think feel comfortable. So it is
mhm,
very important once you set a goal, you start taking small steps. So I took a
mm,
small steps of test driving and sitting and making sure that I feel comfortable driving that, convertible. And then it instills in my mind, so okay, I do want this. And
right,
I'm going
right,
to save money. I'm gonna work
yeah,
harder to save money. See how important that is? You
yeah,
actually
absolutely,
have to set a goal, have to start taking small steps to getting there.
mhm,
You
right,
don't wait till you have money saved up to go test drive because
mhm,
that would not happen for 10 or 20 years. Who knows?
right, right. There Yeah, absolutely. So what were when you decide you're gonna retire,
Yeah.
what were those so it sounds like the goals that you had were financial independence, and that
Yes.
you wanted money and freedom to be able to work for yourself and have flexibility and spend time with your son, and that to me sounds like financial independence, financial
Oh,
security,
I wanted to
right?
be my own boss because when I was
Right.
looking for like a 9 to 5 job, when I wanted to go on a vacation, in fact, one of my daughter was stationed in Japan and she says, "Mom, come and visit me when we come and visit, you visit me and then we could go to Korea where you came from because she knows I've never been to Korea and it only costs $200. It's only like, very short trip from Japan to Korea. We could go there." And I asked my supervisor, and I already had a time. I worked long enough. I have a 2 weeks off. I could
Mhm,
do, right? But they says, "We cannot find anybody to cover your doctor, to cover you, so you can't go." So, right then and then I thought, "Okay, I wanna be my own boss. I don't want anybody to tell me when I could take a vacation,
Mhm.
or how long, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or yes
Yeah,
or
yeah,
no.
absolutely.
Right, so all
Yeah.
those things, and I wanted to stay home with my, child, and then I wanted to just, make money as much as I want. There's no limit. Like, if I work 20 hours, I could make more money, not just
Mm.
capped at the certain, you know what I mean, wages, like,
Right.
you only get paid,
Right.
like, $16 an hour, and that's it. You can't not get paid anymore. And so when I made my mind, it's like, there's a people out there making money, so why not me? I took
Mhm.
a huge leap. I didn't think about like, "Oh, no, what am I gonna do?" I did not talk about any doubts or fears that come to my mind because I lived my life that way.
Mhm.
They don't serve me. They didn't
Mm.
take me anywhere.
Right.
And living by somebody else's mindset, working for a company, like, "You're gonna work for me at this hours, this days, so many hours per hour per, how much
Yep.
per hours." No, none of that. And so
Right.
I didn't think about that, but everybody, like you mentioned earlier, my kids were worried, my parents, everybody was like, "What are you gonna do, Sun Young? Like, you're just so good at your job and you loved your job." And I go, "Yes, I loved and I'm good at it." My patients love me, my doctor, I love my job.
Right.
But I did people are talking, backgrounds next to me, just a lot of noises, right? And that's what
Mhm.
we get a lot of times in our life when we're trying to do something different. Everybody's gonna, "No, you can't do that."
Mhm.
Nobody's like, I didn't have anybody in my circle that made good money.
Yeah,
I didn't
interesting.
have any example.
Yeah, so what were those first steps when you looked out and you said, "Somebody out there people out there are making money, they're having financial independence, they
Yeah.
have this flexibility." What were your first steps? How did you what down that path? Where did you
Well
go first?
well, my step was like, okay, I want to be an investor, a real estate investor. That gives me a freedom. So
Mhm.
we went to a seminar and then learned about that because I was making money with my house. So basically, when I got married second time, I had a house with my girls, and I was renting that out. And then my husband and I, my second husband and I, we got married and bought a new house, and so that's how I ended up with the rental
So that
home.
was your first investment property, was your first rental was your former place where you lived.
Right.
Yep,
But
yep.
I wasn't making money. I was going in the hole because I didn't have
Mm.
any skills. I just thought it was a good idea. Everybody says, "Oh, it's a good idea to have a rental home." And I said, "Okay." Instead of selling it, I'll just use it as a rental. But I didn't have any skills. I didn't know what to do. I just had a house. So, trying to work. And so then that's when we went to a real estate, seminar to learn the skills about how to make money from the rental. Because,
Mm.
I had a mortgage of $900, and then I was only wanting to charge people $950, and I was only making $50, but by the time I pay utilities, I was going in the hole. See, I didn't
Right,
know because I didn't have the skills, right? But
right, right.
so I went there to learn the skills, and then at there, they presented, they're like, "Some of you guys gonna make lots of money with the real estate." And I was like, "Yeah, tell me about it. I'm not making it, so that's why I'm here." But they introduced about option trading, and I said, "What is an option trading?" I had never heard about option trading, but when I was working with the doctor, my doctors would always talk about stocks. Like, they were buying
Mhm,
this stocks and Boeing and Tesla. And I'm like, that's just out of it's like,
mhm,
I didn't have any money. So I didn't even listen to those things, right? Say, well, good to you. You have the money, so you could buy the stocks. But, I'm just on that. So when they were introducing about the options, and I thought, that's a good idea. It's like, yeah, with this new skills, I'll probably make lots of money with my rental. So yeah, I want to learn to, invest my money. So then they said, "You could learn this." And so I thought, okay. So we learned it. And then when it came to actually doing it, they're like, I said, "Okay, what do I need?" They're like, "Okay, well, you got to have your own computer." And I go, "You got to be kidding me. I hate computers." And they're like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Okay, that's not for me at all. No, thank you." So then I
mhm,
quickly, like, no thanks. I turned away. And then I thought, well, when I retire, I gotta have a hobby. And a lot of people with hobby, they spend money, but I thought I wanted to adopt a hobby that makes me money. So I thought option trading is something that when I learned, um,
mhm.
I thought that could be my hobby. But I have to learn something very, very difficult. That is learning to, you know, use a computer. And
Mm.
I thought, okay, that's my challenge, biggest challenge, a head-on challenge. I'm gonna do it for my hobby.
Mhm.
So when I retired, exactly a year from 2014, when I was ending the conversations, I retired in 2015. And then when 2016 came, I told myself it's gonna take motivation, discipline, and nothing gets in your mind but just focus on
Mhm.
this new hobby. Action.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an interesting roadblock that getting a computer was something that, was standing in your way at that point. It's
Oh
interesting.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I hate computers. I don't like
Yeah.
new technologies. I don't, I'm just old school,
Right.
and so I'd rather take notes from the pen and pencil than, just than
Yeah.
computers.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you started to explore and try to educate yourself around real estate investing, and one thing led to another, and now you're learning about options trading, and so
Yes.
you're surrounding yourself with people that can help you get an education in some of these other areas that might be able to bring you the income that you're looking for because you didn't have, people around you that were making money. These are all, your friends aren't real estate investors or options traders, right? You had to go out and surround yourself with people who can bring the right information and bring the right expertise that you can focus on to do what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. You have to go where there's an opportunity, and then
Mhm.
there's another opportunity given to you or, introduce. You need to look into it. You can't just say, I could have easily says, no, thank you. I don't want it. That's too hard for me. Why do I want to learn new skills? Like I could have said all those things, but it was intriguing. I thought, like I said, I want to take on a new hobby that is
Mhm.
challenging because I wanted to stay busy after I retired. So I really studied this. And so after, learning about the option trading, and then I start practicing with the virtual money. And then I was like making really good money, like, virtually. I was making like 50,000 a day or a week. And I thought, this is unreal. So my husband was still working and I texted him and I said, I just made 50,000 just in this, Tesla or something. And then I said, too bad it's not real money. And so we're like,
Mhm.
darn, it's like, it's too bad.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
after studying, and I really like what I did is like, I took this on as a very seriously. And I thought, this is my new job. And I'm going to treat this just like my new job. I just got out of for 33 years and I'm going to go into a room with this computer that I'm going to really learn about this computer, how to use this computer to navigate. 'Cause that's what
Mhm.
I gotta do first, which button to push,
Yeah.
because I don't know anything about the computer, right? So
It sounds like you had to learn how to walk, right? You had to learn how to use a computer. You had to learn the alphabet when you got to the United States. When you entered into options trading, you had to learn how to use the computer. Step
yeah,
1, right?
new
Yeah.
language, new everything. So then I studied it, and then I thought, I'm doing so good making fake money. Why don't I start making this with the real money? It's like,
Yeah,
why
which is probably it's probably a good point, like, if you're listening to this, you start to get interested in options trading, starting with fake money is probably a good idea, right?
yes.
To try some of these things out,
Yeah,
so
because you don't
but at
risk
the
your real money, that hard-earned
yeah,
money is so scary.
yeah, yeah, so you eventually say, "I'm gonna put some, real money to work here," and
Yeah.
what happens next?
Yeah, so basically, 2016, I practiced and I really took it serious, the discipline and just really studied it and came up with my own strategy. It's called Unique Miracle System. And then I thought, okay, now I'm gonna really how long am I gonna practice this, like with the virtual money? Like how many years? I have to stop and I'm gonna really have to use a real money. It was scary, but I didn't have any money really because so basically, I took my home equity loan, and I started
Mhm,
with the home equity because I didn't have a whole lot of money really because I could not touch any of my 401k or pension plan because I was still
mhm,
young when I
mhm,
retired early. So I took a home equity loan, and then I started with that. But what I did is I thought if I could make anywhere between 50 to 60 or 90,000 at the max per year, I would be
Mhm.
so happy. Then I know
Mhm.
that I don't have to work for somebody else.
Right. So you've got a goal in mind. You need to
Yes.
know what you need to make that financial freedom or
Right,
security and
exactly.
have
That
that
I
in
could
place.
just do anything I want, go anywhere I want, anytime, just whatever. So
Yep.
then also setting a goal, and then you also have to set like small steps. So I thought if I want to make like let's say 100,000 a year, right? At the max, like it's like I could make more, but I thought that would be a huge goal for me because my goal was like anywhere between like 30 to 90,000. But I thought, oh, why not just make 100,000? So if I make 90,000, I'll be happy. But so
Mhm.
100,000, I set a goal, and then I broke it down into small steps. And I thought, How much do I have to make a month for me to make 100,000 a year? How much do I have to make a week? And how much do I have to make a day? Setting the small steps to make your goals, of 100,000 a year,
Right.
I ended up making $178,000 my first year.
Wow.
I was,
So way
blown away. I was
yeah.
just blown away, and I was like, "What?" It's like I was just so excited because not only I met my goal, but I exceeded my goal. I,
Yeah.
tripled my no income that I've been doing for like 33 years. I
Mhm.
was just like, I just could not believe it. So I
Wow.
thought, "Okay, I could do this."
Yeah.
Because when you say, "I'm going to make $100,000," that's like we look at ourselves like making a 30 to 40,000 a year for 33 years to, making 100,000. It's like that could just no way. But I did not think of it that way.
Mm.
I said I could do it, but I
Right.
didn't want to disappoint myself. But I said up to 100,000, but I'll be very, very satisfied making from 50 to 60 or 90,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So but that discipline, it sounds like, and showing up and taking it serious
Yes.
and working it day by day
Well, I did.
led
Yes.
you to just far exceed any of your early expectations of what was possible.
Yeah, so 2018, 2000, so within couple of years, I was able to make $1,000,000, and I just thought, "This is just crazy." Like, this is just crazy. I mean, my husband retired, 2 years later because I was
Mhm.
keep texting, making fake money, and then he saw me 'cause remember, both of us took these classes, you know?
Mhm.
And then so that's another thing. It's like we could take a lessons or we could hear about somebody else's success story. And if we don't do anything about it and really implementing it in our life and taking actions, nothing's going to happen. So in other words,
Yeah.
my husband and I, we took the same classes, and he was working for the military. So he wanted to work, a few more years to get the full benefit of, 34 years. But when he retired in 2017, he had like $164,000 of his TSP,
Mhm.
retirement money. And
Yep.
because I did so well, I took that money and I turned that into $604,000 in 11 months.
Wow.
Not
Wow.
11 years, but 11 months.
Yeah.
So that is just like, as I told my husband, when are you going to start doing what we learned?
Well, I was gonna say you're a great example, and I don't think enough people stick with things. I don't think enough people take learning new opportunities seriously. They may hear you say, I went from 175 to 600,000 in
Yeah, and then
11
millions.
months.
Yeah,
And that sounds good, and they might dabble around and try it themselves, and then next week, next month, they're on to a new flashy object or the new kinda, get rich quick, and I hope what people are taking away from your conversation is how much work you put into learning it, trying it out, educating yourself, and being disciplined enough to stay at it day by day by day,
yeah,
because especially with something like options trading, you can't really not pay attention to it. It's not
yeah,
a set it and forget it type of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now, because I created such a simple system
Mhm.
that I don't have to be in front of the computer every day. I set my options and set up quick closing orders, and I could go on vacations, do whatever. And then, there's I get this notice on my phone, ding, 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 ding. I'm like, my trades are going through, or I'm making money. It's just a
Yeah, it
beautiful
was just
thing.
where the alarm just went off at
Yes.
4 o'clock, the top of the
Yeah,
hour here on the East Coast, so the market's closed. So,
exactly.
there's just a live example of what's
Yeah,
going on, Sun
right.
Young's computer, right,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And so
yeah.
it's just a I mean, this is a truly, truly dream come true. So, people say, Sun Young, you're so lucky. And I said, when it comes to like, they says, you're so smart and you're so lucky. And I say to myself, I'm lucky because I was given an opportunity by family. But when it comes to a journey where I am today, like really, I'm not so smart and I'm not so lucky. It's just I was willing to face the hardship. I was willing to, you know, um, overcome the obstacles. I was willing to face whatever challenge that it comes on. And was willing to just not listen to the background noise, the people that loves me, that cares about me, my kids, my family, everybody was worried. It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
You start drawing money off of a HELOC, people are gonna say, "Hey, are you
Yeah,
know what you're doing here, right? You're
yeah,
taking some risk." Yeah, yeah.
exactly. I mean, they were just like, and don't give me, don't get me wrong. There's a 30 seconds, like, yeah, I don't have any, skills. I don't know, but I didn't let that stay more than 30 seconds because when everybody's speaking to you, you have to say, okay. But those are just fears. And if I have listened to everybody, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would not with my true dream life and dream income. And I mean, like dream everything. Like I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to, I mean, you wouldn't be interested in me. If I didn't have this new mindset and become who I am now, you wouldn't be interested in talking to me. You would have never found about me.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Think about
absolutely,
it.
absolutely. Again, it's such a I wanna be conscious of your time and kinda wrap us up here in the next couple of minutes, but I think it's just such a unique, inspirational story for someone like yourself to face the obstacles and the challenges, and you just never stopped working hard and changing your mindset and, going out and seeking, those new opportunities and educating yourself. It's really an inspirational story to spend time with you and learn about your journey.
Thank you.
Um, so what are you up to today? If people want to check out your work, so you do some coaching, you've written a
Yes.
few books, so there's some workshops and some things that you offer to people if they want to check you out specifically. Where should people go to learn about, more about options and the work that you do?
Okay, so options. I have a YouTube channel. So they could certainly subscribe and watch the YouTube channel on how I do my options. And I do have a couple of books. It's called Invest in Yourself, and it says throw away your excuses and turn your life around.
I love
Basically,
it.
all these excuses that I have used in the past, and
Mhm.
it didn't get me anywhere. So I just had to write a book, and it's a self help book. It's only 10 chapters. I'll give your audience 50% off with the signature.
Awesome.
And then I also wrote a book. My husband and I, we wrote a book together. And a lot of times, we are married to somebody. We thought that they were like the your soulmate or whatever. When I met my
Mhm.
second husband, I thought he was the jackpot. I thought he has a good job. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't do drugs. Oh my gosh. And then after I got married and lived with him, I was like, oh my gosh, we're so opposite of each other. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
we wrote a book. It's called Self Help Book, and we're still happily married. But it's a relationship book. It's wonderful. So you could do the website that I provide you with the website. So they
Mhm.
can click there and then just leave me with the emails and say I want to buy a book. It's for 50% off. So they could get it for like $15 or something like that. And then I'm on a TikTok and a Instagram and LinkedIn and X. I'm not very
Awesome.
active, but my newest thing is I'm creating an event called Thrive 360.
Okay.
And under that umbrella, we teach how to make money with option trading and mentoring, how you could lift your mindset and how you could gain your own power to
Mm.
regain your life, regain your power. Because basically, nobody's going to come to you and say, Sun Young, you suffered, you didn't have a good cars in the beginning. And I think you deserve XYZ. And they're going to come to you at the door and say, here,
Yeah.
no,
No one's
we
gonna
have to
hand it
go
to
where
you.
there's opportunities, and we have
Right.
to actually take actions. Once you hear it, and been shown or introduced, you have to take actions because no actions, no results. And every
Yeah.
success people have failed. So I have failed many times throughout my, learning to do option trading and so many scarcity, so many fearful things and learning to how to
Mhm.
walk is scary. When I remember when I was taking a first step, it's like, I can take a step. There's nothing for me to hang on to. And this floor is going to move. Oh, there's so many scary things that happened to me, but I just, pushed on and basically just wanted to say this. When we're born as a baby, we have a power, meaning when we cry, somebody feed us. When we cry, somebody changes our diapers. And we forget how much power that we have as a baby. So as we grow up, learning to do our things, people outside of us or even within our circle says, you can't do that. No,
Mm.
you're not supposed to do that. No, not now. No, so we hear those no things. So then we lose our power. And so
Beautiful.
we have to regain our power mentally to really live our life, to become like who you were meant to be, what you want to do, as much as money, freedom that you want to live.
Mhm.
Like the
Yeah.
life should be a playground, not a work ground, like slaves, you know what I mean? Slaving away to your 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, and again, it's inspirational to hear from somebody that, after 33 years or 34 years of working at their dream job, realized that they had more life to live and there
Yes.
was more opportunity and there was more to learn and there
Yes.
was, their financial situation to control and you went out and did it and have become really successful. So we'll link to all the stuff.
Thank
We'll link to the books and your websites and your YouTube channel if people want to continue to learn more. And there's so much about mindset and empowerment. We could probably have you back if you're open down the road to coming back,
Sure.
and we'll kind of dig into some of this stuff a little bit further. The last question, I'm just curious, with your experience and where you came from and where you are today, how would you describe what is financial independence about for you? How would you describe financial independence and financial security, financial well-being? When you think about those things, what does that mean to you today?
Boy, that just means everything. That
Mm,
just means everything. If you're financially secure, you could really meet all your needs. For another example, like, you know, if you have a lot of money and if you're sick, you could go to the doctor. You could get some, help, right? But if you don't have any money and you're sick, you're going to continue to stay sick and deteriorate your life. And so also having a financial freedom means like living healthy life because you have to have a good health and healthy mind and healthy body to really enjoy your financial freedom. Because without them, a lot of people says the money will make you, make you happy or money could buy happiness. Not really, because there's so many people that make lots of money, millionaires and billionaires, and they're not happy. What
mhm,
makes you happy is how you see the money as. Like money is like a tool. So I think of a money as a tool. So the
mhm,
more tool I have, meaning more money I have, more things that I could do. I could go on vacations. I could buy anything I want. I could pay forward. I could donate to those, necessary places, paying forward to the world so that someone could have a better life. Some companies could have a better life. I mean, there's just, list goes on and on and on.
yeah,
And not only that, but to be able to help other people, like your own kids. Like if you're financially secure, having that financial freedom, like who's gonna not believe? Like my kid says, "Oh, I need help." They're not gonna come to you if I don't have a financial freedom. I'm still struggling, right?
mhm,
So you have
mhm,
to really create that for yourself. And so to me, that is like everything financial freedom because it could cure, it could just satisfy, meet all your needs, everything that you ever needed.
mm, mm.
Buying and,
That
enjoying it. I mean, just, I just can't, just donating. I just can't believe. Just
yeah, yeah,
every day is like my dream life because knowing that I don't have to worry. Like, I
mm,
don't have to worry a minute at all. Like, no worries at all whatsoever. Like they could, because I own everything. Like I don't have any payments on everything that I own. So nobody can
Yeah.
take that away from me.
Yeah. And you can have whatever gum you want whenever
Yeah.
you want.
Any
Yeah.
flavors and many packages I want.
Yeah. That's great. Sun Young, it's so nice to spend time with you. I love your story, and I hope people check out the YouTube channel and check out the books. Again, we'll link to all those things. And one of these days we'll have you back and we'll continue the conversation if you're up for it.
Sure. Love to. It's been great to be with you, Jim. You have a great
Likewise.
podcast.
I appreciate it. And thank you everybody for listening. If you like what you heard and wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button, we'd appreciate it. And thanks again. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Thanks again for listening to this episode. A quick note, although I do hope that the information that we talked about was helpful, in no way is anything discussed on the podcast to be taken as specific financial advice. Please consult your own advisors and do your own research when you're making important financial decisions.